this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Sink into affordable luxury. Anabay is the only machine-washable sofa, inside and out. With stain-resistant slip covers and a cloud-like frame duvet, everything goes right in the wash. Plus, the modular design lets you change the look of your space anytime. Visit WashableSofas.com to upgrade your home. Shop up to 60% off site-wide, with sofas starting at just $699 and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Shop now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Tax season has arrived, and doing taxes without the right help can feel overwhelming. Intuit TurboTax is here now to guide you through it with confidence. Match with a TurboTax full-service expert who handles everything for you from start to finish. Your dedicated expert checks every single deduction and credit to help you get the best possible outcome so you can feel confident you're getting every dollar you deserve. And the best part? You'll see real-time updates on your expert's progress right on your phone while you live your life. Plus, you get unlimited expert help at no extra cost, even on nights and weekends during tax season. Visit TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax full-service experts. Real-time updates only on iOS mobile app.
Do you want to find a stress-free way to buy your next car? Start at CarMax and shop your way. And if you want to browse with confidence, get pre-qualified online with no impact on your credit score and shop cars within your budget. From luxury cars to family rides, CarMax has options for almost every price range, including more than 25,000 cars priced under $25,000. So, hey, want to get started? Just head to CarMax.com for details and get pre-qualified today. Want to drive? CarMax.
Body Bags with Joseph Scott Moore. Robert Louis Stevenson. I was fascinated when I was, a kid and I read Treasure Island for the first time. You know, those stories now, I don't know, I guess it seems kind of quaint. But, you know, what always fascinated me about that story was kind of the mystery. And you're seeing it through this kid's eyes. And you're thinking about what that wild life would have been like. You know, with pirates, and I guess the ultimate thing is the mystery, isn't it? Buried treasure maps. Imagine that. Going out and putting a shovel into the soil and recovering something that had quite a bit of value to it. Today on Body Bags, we're going to talk about a case that, I don't know, it's been 50 years in the making. A case that involves something that was buried. Buried, and after it had been discarded by the state because no one claimed it. No one claimed it. For 50 years, a mystery. A mystery that has, in fact, been solved. Oh, by the way, did I mention that in this case, there is an X involved in this? Only the X didn't mark the spot. The X was actually buried with an unknown body. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags. Dave, did you ever imagine in your wildest dreams when you were a kid that you could go out in the backyard and maybe dig something up and it would have value to it? I know I did.
We did all the time.
Yeah, I thought that, ripping and roaring through the woods and all that sort of stuff, you look for things that have value, and turns out it's just somebody's drunk uncle threw an old bicycle out, out in the woods, and it's rusted.
Children still do that. Boys, I don't like to say anything that leaves out girls because my daughter Hannah was this way, but all of my boys have done that. Braylon comes home. He goes and on an adventure. And he'll come home with a can, and it's like you're looking at going, yeah, that's a Dr. Pepper from 1985. I can tell by the pop top, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I forgot that's ancient history to him. So, that whole idea of digging and finding treasure, it's exciting. And I think it is an adventure.
It is. And Dave, I got to tell you, in the modern world that we live in now, I would submit to you, my friend, that there are treasures buried in a lot of different places, but it all comes down to where you put the value in the treasure, right? And so, there, and when I say the value in the treasure, of course, what I'm talking about are human remains, because there are so many remains out there, Dave, and and I grieve over this so much. I truly do. I wring my hands over it. As a former investigator, because I always think, what else could I have done? It's very frustrating. But on one hand, I've seen it come full circle now into a world that I never thought that we would see, and that is that's the identity of unidentified persons. And I think about all of the bodies that I watched go out the door that were taken to Potter's Field or, wherever it was. And those bodies were essentially, they're just kind of forgotten. No one knows about them.
When you sent this story,
and
I started looking, and you've got an X marks the spot on it.
Yeah.
I was looking at it, and I started studying, started researching, brought out the maps. Okay. I didn't break out the paper maps. I looked online. But still, I got out the map. And the thing is, I was like, isn't this where Henry Hill was riding in the opening of Goodfellas when they were driving out, had to pull off the side of the road to stab the guy to death that was in the trunk? And then took him out there and buried him, because remember they had to dig him back up later on?
Dig him because the condos were going to be built out there. Yeah.
Right. In this particular case, we have a story that begins in 1970 with a dead body being found, but it's not just a body being found. It is a headless-handless body with an X carved into the chest, and it's left in upstate New York, Allegany County, and it's an area where those who spent time in New York in the late 60s and 70s believed this was a place where mobsters got rid of rats and people who had done them wrong. This was the way and the X marks the spot, the head and the hands gone. You're getting rid of dental identity, fingerprints. I mean, this was a professional job, and it was so professional, in fact, that this unknown, what was left of the body, was not identified for a long time. But what used to be gone, done, and done, stuck in a hole, we don't have to worry about Philip anymore. Well, now, because of Othram and because of the technology advances, Joe, this headless-handless body marked with an X in the chest has been identified after what, 56 years?
Yeah, 50 plus, that's for sure. One other piece to this, boy, that was bad timing. What I meant to say,
Joe.
I was not going for low-hanging fruit there. Nobody misunderstand or misconstrue. Well, you can go ahead. People are going to
That would be Dave's job, low-hanging fruit. Go ahead.
But what I will say is that in this particular case, let me just tell you how much more difficult it was for investigators. Because first off, I think whoever did this wanted him found. Okay.
Oh.
Because kind of in plain sight, I guess, to a certain degree. No effort was really made to obscure the body. But here's one other thing that really made it difficult. There were no clothes. Nothing. This guy, this human remains were just found nude as well.
But you said that you think they did it. They wanted him to be found, but they didn't want him identified. So was this like an insider thing to say, see?
Yeah,
we
there's
told
people.
You.
Yeah.
Really?
I guarantee you dollars to donuts.
Wow.
Now, they might all be dead now, for all I know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
However, it's my belief that there are probably a group of people out there that may have existed in the past that knew that this was going to happen because somebody has probably been warned on some level. And that news circulates because this kind of event like this in rural, this isolated area, okay, this would have made it into the newspaper.
Oh, yeah.
And it would have leaked out. And it's confirmatory, right? You go back now. I don't know about all the dirty details. Back then there was a bit more, what's the word, propriety, I guess. And they would only allude to things. They wouldn't specifically talk about it necessarily like we do today in a rather gratuitous manner. However, I submit to you, my friend, that when this was perpetrated, there was specific intent for people to, make this discovery and to send a message. I'm reflecting back now relative to this case. So you take the guy's clothes off, and here's another piece to this that they did reveal at the time. They revealed, Dave, that they didn't believe this event occurred where he was found.
Right. They did believe he had been killed and dismembered to a point somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you said that they left his body where it could be found. So it wasn't buried? They didn't dig a hole? Put lime on him and stuff?
No. No.
By the way, does that help when we see this in the movies like, Goodfellas, where they make a case about lime?
Yeah.
What is the purpose for putting lime on a body to knock the smell down or to help it decompose? Is there a reason for it, or is it an old wives' tale?
Yeah. Most people believe that it is actually there to speed or hasten decomposition. That's part of it, and there's also another part to this where people believe that it knocks down the smell. I've been around bodies that have, in fact, been covered in lime, and maybe I think that it's all relative. You could say perhaps that the smell changes somewhat. However, I don't think that you could actually say that it completely degrades the smell. It's really the smell of humans decaying is really difficult to defeat, Dave.
Let me ask you a question, a little follow-up to that.
Yeah.
We did a show where tires were involved.
Yeah. You remember?
Yep. If you were to take a body like this, no head, no hands, and you're out in the woods, but you say take 15, 20 tires and put them on top of or around the body, would that be enough tires to prevent the smell of decomposition?
Yeah, to a certain degree. But, you would have to think that if you were to take that number of tires, you're certainly going to draw attention, to a group of tires that had not been there before.
Yeah.
But I think that it could knock down the smell. But I think that bodies have been used for a long, long time to send a message. They have utility. First off, it's not just about the revenge of whatever the perception is of wrongdoing against a group of people or whatever it is. It's also a warning. It can be a foreshadowing of things that are to come. I think that the piece to this to try to understand is what in the world could this man who is found in this isolated area have done to warrant this kind of treatment of his body in death?
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay is the only machine washable sofa inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas start at just $699. Enjoy a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slip covers made with performance fabric. Experience cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam that's hypoallergenic and never needs fluffing. The sturdy steel frame ensures longevity, and the modular pieces can be rearranged anytime. Shop WashableSofas.com for up to 60% off site-wide, backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Upgrade now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Hi, I'm Cindy Crawford, and I'm the founder of Meaningful Beauty. When Dr. Sabah and I decided to do a skincare line together, he said to me, "We are going to give women meaningful beauty." And I said, "That's exactly right. We want to give women meaningful beauty, which means each and every product is meaningful. It has a reason to exist. It's efficacious. You're going to get results. And then you just go out and live your life."
Meaningful Beauty. Confidence is beautiful. Learn more at meaningfulbeauty.com.
Craving bold, authentic taste without kitchen chaos? True Nature Meats Hawaiian Kalua Pork delivers. Slow-roasted tenderness with smoky tropical notes. Pre-cooked perfection. 30 years supplying the finest restaurants. Chances are you've already had their pork. Heat in 2 minutes, shred for plates or bowls. Complaints turn to second helpings and laughter. Real meat, real flavor. Go to TrueNatureMeats.com, code FREEMEAT for 20% off, plus free New York strip, Texas smoked brisket, and Mediterranean chicken with code FREEMEAT at TrueNatureMeats.com.
Dave, part of me really enjoys seeing, AI recreations of old photographs. I love seeing things that, perhaps have been brought back to life. I like a lot of old military stuff. And so to see animations of formerly black and white images having life breathed into them, it's kind of cool, I think. But, for somebody that has enjoyed black and white photography for a long, long time, participated in it for a while, never was good at it, but I've always appreciated it, and I love looking at black and whites. I think back to like Ansel Adams that took these incredible scenes, landscapes from, the American West and became quite famous for it. There's actually an image, Dave, that harkens back to Ansel Adams for me. And the reason is that it's the spot where the body of this victim was found, and it's obviously black and white, and it looks like a roadway that has been kind of graded down. It's not like blacktop. It's going through rolling hills. You can see some hills off in the distance. There are no leaves on the trees, and there are banks of snow all over the place. And you can see snow-covered hills off in the distance as well. It's kind of got a feeling, when you see this thing of loneliness. And this is up in the Andover area where the remains were found. Actually, the name of the road is Davis Hill Road. And he's just found out there on the road, this body is. And I'm thinking, about the person that came across these remains in these conditions. You talk about stark. When you see this image, you can understand why the body was probably pretty well preserved. It looks really, really cold. Have you ever looked at a photograph and you can kind of take away from the photograph, you can say, wow, that looks like that's really cold, or wow, they're in a tropic environment and man, that looks like it's really hot. They're out on the beach or maybe in the jungle. You see pictures of guys from Vietnam and that sort of thing. Or, even over in the Middle East. But this thing looks very, I guess the great word for it is stark. And for some reason, whoever perpetrated this event decided on this location to kind of throw this poor person's body out on the side of the road. And I think, again, it's meant to send a message. Whoever found this, I don't know if they received a message, but I know that it's an image that probably lived with them for the rest of their lives.
But, okay. Where's the head and hands? Because this body was not complete. This body, it was a headless, handless, naked human being with an X carved in his chest. And it leads me to wonder, what did they do with the head and the hands? Because as you mentioned right off the top, the person was not murdered in this spot and then taken apart. As a matter of fact, we don't even know. Do we know how the individual died in 1970? Could they figure that out?
No, there has not been a cause of death released. And Dave, I got to tell you, if this was some type of organized crime event, people always think about organized crime where somebody walks in with a fully automatic, weapon and they just blast away like out of some kind of gangster movie or something. That's generally not the way, that kind of thing happens, particularly if it's, some kind of hit. It's going to be done very, very quietly. Did you know that, what one of the most popular weapons has been over the years for execution?
Piano wire.
No, when it comes to firearms, or 22s.
Really?
Because they can easily be, the sound can be knocked down quite effectively. As a matter of fact, during Vietnam Operation Phoenix, we made our government, and I've actually held one of these, believe it or not, a customized pistol that had a built-in suppressor, or some people say silencer. I hate that term. Yeah. But, and it's subsonic. So what that means is it's below the speed of sound. So you don't hear that huge crack that you hear with, say, a hypersonic round. And to the idea of the head, you mentioned early on that there would be no teeth, right? And teeth would be a very common way, any kind of dental records you could acquire. Teeth would certainly be a way that we could get somebody identified. But also, if you pop somebody in the back of the head, like execution style, there's a high probability that round would still be in the head.
Oh, wow.
And so literally you're removing the head, but when you remove the head, and let's say it's not a through and through wound, you're carrying with you the causal factor that led to this individual's death. Now, the hands, that's something else. I think that goes specifically specifically, rather, to identification, a means to get anybody identified. You know what they have not released yet, though, and we're going to tell you, but they do have an ID on this individual now in the modern context. But I really wonder if they've gone back to see what kind of record this now ID'd person had, and did they have prints in the system from back then?
Interesting, because it would be, as you have said many times, and I'm so glad you pointed this out, but you've said that it doesn't matter if you find prints if the person's not in the system, if they haven't been busted before or they don't have a reason. So in 1970, before computerization of things, it would have even been more remarkable to be able to match up fingerprints. Yeah. But just to go ahead and cut the chase here, because we already know we have a body, what's left of it, and we are doing a show called Body Bags about said body. And even though this body was found in October of 1970 with no head, no hands, no identification, naked, and was buried unidentified. He was buried as and was called for years by a name that is not that uncommon. We've used these before, where you have the county the person was found in with the name John Doe. And in this one, it was Allegany County John Doe, 1970. That's when this victim was buried. I think I said October. The body was found in March of 1970.
March, yeah.
If I said October earlier, I apologize. But March 20, 1970. And the detectives at the time believed that the evidence suggested he was a victim of being killed in some type of mob-related hit, carried out someplace else, and his body was dumped in this area of Allegany County. The killer was a pro, and he was buried unknown in a potter's field. Now, it didn't end there. The body was later exhumed, and when we get to that point, Joe, I'm really curious the passageway, what you would have to do, because you've explained many times how difficult it is to exhume a body.
Yeah.
But to even come to that point, they had to try to get a little background, right? Well, in 1973, October 16th, 1973, a woman named Darlene Coppage filed in the local paper in Wellsville, New York. She filed an action for divorce. Now, this is when a person has been abandoned by their spouse, and or like a car. If a car is abandoned, on your property or whatever, and nobody's claiming it, you run an ad in the paper for a couple of weeks or whatever, and if nobody comes and claims it, well, there you go. They'll issue a title to you. But in this case, if nobody answers this call for a divorce, you get divorced. And Darlene Coppage had her fill. She had been abandoned, hadn't seen her husband in a few years, and that's it. So she filed for divorce publicly like that. She wanted the marriage to Clyde Coppage to be dissolved and wanted custody of their children, which happened. Clyde Coppage never answered the ad. By the way, as we are doing this show today in March of 2026, Darlene Coppage is alive.
Wow. After all these years.
Darlene was legally divorced from her absent husband, Clyde. He had just run off and left her. That was in 1973. She raised her children. They all went on with life. Just assumed that, Clyde was kind of a wandering fella anyway. Now, they lived in Pennsylvania, Joe, but Clyde worked at a Kodak factory about 90 miles away. Now, do you remember, was commuting from an area like that 90 miles, was that a normal thing in 1970?
No. When I saw that number and they said 90 miles, I was kind of taken aback by that. I'm thinking, Lord have mercy, that's a long way. I think the plant was in Rochester, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Kodak.
And they were
based out of there. Yeah,
and they were living in Pennsylvania, and the drive was 90 miles. I looked it up because I'm thinking Clyde and Darlene were married, had kids, and he's 35 years old driving 90 miles to work. Come on. You're going to tell me you couldn't find something better? Closer?
Well, I know, absolutely. I can't imagine property values up in Rochester at that moment were crippling.
Yeah.
Why didn't you live in closer proximity? Here, can I go back to the wife real quick here?
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of fascinated by. From what we're hearing at this point in time, she didn't file a missing persons report with the police.
No.
Which is really super bizarre to me. Because I got to tell you, the fact that a wife that has children at home, she's married to an individual, I would think she would show up with her hair on fire if he had not made an appearance at some point in time, getting on the rooftops and screaming out at the top of her lungs that, look, my husband, Clyde Coppage, he ain't come home. I'm trying to find him. I'm worried about him or what happened to him. At that point, why not get the authorities involved? Because I got to tell you, this is kind of, just follow me here. If that report had been filed, okay, if that report had been filed, a missing persons report, even as, I hate to use the word primitive, but as not as linked up as we are today, this is going to, because she would have given a physical description at that point in time. She would have said, and I've seen pictures of him. He's kind of a robust, handsome, strapping looking guy. Probably would have given a weight and a height, certainly a race, all those sorts of things. And he's missing, needs some help here. And that was not done. And so at least there would have been an opportunity to have that physical linkage there. But it didn't occur. So the next thing you know, 3 years downrange from this body, being found out on this desolate road, she's now filing for a divorce in absentia, which is, just super bizarre. Now, maybe there were reasons, but does that go to the social history of the victim as well? And that's something that I think is, had he, down here in the South, we use the term, he didn't run off, and that's something that, my grandmother's generation would say, if the male breadwinner doesn't show back up at home, and trust me, there have been women that have run off as well over the years too, and leave their kids with
There has just been a story out of North Carolina in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
A woman who left 20 years ago. At Christmas time, she left her husband and children. They thought maybe kidnapped and murdered and just never found the body. She turns up 20-something years later, still living in North Carolina, but now all across the state.
Yeah.
She just left. Just left. And it turns up now, Yeah.
Yeah. And that does cut both ways. Yeah. I don't. But, I just think about that one decision that you make all those years ago, because, that doesn't just affect you. That affects his kids as well.
Yeah.
Because now they've gone through their entire life. They've gone through their entire life thinking that, well, Daddy just walked out the door, didn't care enough about us. He just abandoned us.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that, right now at this point in time, Dave, we do in fact have an ID. We do know who this individual is. And when we tell you what happened, it's amazing that they were ever able to find out what the real identity was.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. 100. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay is the only designer sofa that's machine washable inside and out, starting at just $699. Plus, Anabay sofas are pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and feature changeable slipcovers and modular pieces. Get up to 60% off site-wide with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Visit washablesofas.com to get yours now. That's washablesofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Now I'd like to introduce you to Meaningful Beauty, the famed skincare brand created by iconic supermodel Cindy Crawford. It's her secret to absolutely gorgeous skin. Meaningful Beauty makes powerful and effective skincare simple, and it's loved by millions of women. It's formulated for all ages and all skin tones and types, and it's designed to work as a complete skincare system, leaving your skin feeling soft, smooth, and nourished. I recommend starting with Cindy's full regimen, which contains all 5 of her best-selling products, including the amazing youth-activating melon serum. This next-generation serum has the power of melon leaf stem cell technology. It's melon leaf stem cells encapsulated for freshness and released onto the skin to support a visible reduction in the appearance of wrinkles. With thousands of glowing 5-star reviews, why not give it a try? Subscribe today and you can get the amazing Meaningful Beauty system for just $49.95. That includes our introductory 5-piece system, free gifts, free shipping, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. All of that available at meaningfulbeauty.com.
Grocery prices are skyrocketing, but True Nature Meats beef carne asada delivers zesty flair for under $6 per person. Juicy, pre-cooked with Sonoran marinade, ready for tacos or plates. Eat in 2 minutes, vibrant restaurant-level taste at home. Exceptional taste, honest value. Visit TrueNatureMeats.com. Code FREEMEAT for 20% off plus free New York strip, Texas smoked brisket, and Mediterranean chicken with code FREEMEAT at TrueNatureMeats.com.
Dave, I've been to Westminster Abbey a couple of times, in one of my trips to London. And the reason I go back there is I'm amazed by the grave sites. And I hate to even call them grave sites, but the tombs of all of these kings that exist inside of this place. And I recommend anybody that, if you ever take a trip over there, you need to make sure that you go and visit. Oh, and here's one other thing. Let me give you a little piece of inside advice. If the man's standing at the door and they're generally wearing like a red robe, if they say to you, are you coming in for a tour? Or are you coming in to worship? Always tell them you're coming in to worship, because if you come in for a tour, they charge it. So there you go. That's the free of charge. When you see the links to which they went to honor their dead, all right, that's not what happens in a potter's field. Okay, that just doesn't happen. There have been cases over the years where, they would, depending upon the office, where ground would be trenched out, Dave, and they would just take the bodies and just kind of lay them in there, side by side. And generally some kind of really, really cheap coffin. There are actually coffins out there that are made out of cardboard, okay? Or they're cobbled together out of press board, plywood.
That's biodegradable, the cardboard, and so it goes back to the earth, and there's a whole movement afoot going back to that now.
Yeah, now, but from a forensic standpoint, I got to tell you, you're kind of scratching your head over this, and you're thinking, "Oh my Lord," because I got to tell you, when they buried this fellow's body all those years ago, when they put him into a John Doe grave, they would have been not using the titanium casket they try to sell you, when you go to the that's not the one they're using. All right. They're going to use the cheapest thing because county is paying for this, Dave.
Yeah.
And they're going to go low end on this.
Yeah. And let me ask you about this because I know that a lot of times it'll be, like you said, cardboard, and sometimes they put cloth over it to make it look nicer, but it is very low end. And when you're burying a body like this, Joe, where the head's been cut off in the hands, does that impact how fast the body will deteriorate? Will that loss of a limb or what have you, would it cause it to happen faster?
Yeah, it would. It's going to degrade quicker because maybe they did, but I cannot imagine. They would have done, obviously, this is a homicide. You can kind of deduce that, even though maybe you don't have head trauma visible, but you got somebody with their head cut off. You're going to do an autopsy. All right. So let's just say they do the autopsy right, and they're going to stitch this guy up. The day of the autopsy is not going to be the day that they take this individual out to Pottersfield and bury them. They're going to hang on to the body. Now, they would have stored him for whatever they would have had time parameters on this, because in this little location, you're not going to have like an infinite area to store things because, you got more cases coming in. All right.
Right.
So they would have said, okay, we're going to purge the area back there and we're going to send these bodies out there. And we're going to have them buried. And generally it's going to be a contract with a funeral home, in the county. So the county will have a contract set up and there'll be a bare minimum amount of money that will be paid to that contracting funeral home. Money will exchange hands, or they'll get a check at the end of the month and say they've got 3 that they're going to bury. All right. Well, the funeral home will get paid per body. All right. And then, the county is also going to have to cover the backhoe where they're digging the hole. And were these bodies actually crypted? Did they put, like the burial crypt in the ground and then put this cheap coffin inside of there, or did they just put the cheap coffin into the ground directly? All right. It all depends on what their level of safety is. Because I got to tell you, you start burying coffins in the ground, caskets, coffins in the ground. If it's not crypted in some way, where you've got the big box and they put the concrete box where, the body goes into the concrete box and you put the slab over the top of it and then you put dirt. Well, Dave, there are old graves out there. I had a friend that fell through one time that there is no concrete surface to the thing. And so the ground will literally collapse. And on top of this, so, you got that working against you. And so the funeral home gets paid, the county pays it out. They assign a number and a lot number to it. That way you can go back if you have to and reference it. But you were talking about preservation. I'm sorry, I went kind of far afield with that. But
well, and before we get to that, Joe.
Yeah.
Okay, when talking about burying people like that, where somebody has to be responsible and accountable for what happened to this body, even though it is headless and handless. When we were doing the story about Michael Jordan's father, where the county, they didn't have money to store the body. They had to make a decision. So in that case, they removed Mr. Jordan's hands, correct?
Yes. Well, then, at least the fingertips, which is something that we commonly do.
Okay.
And so folks know and I was just having this discussion with my class the other day about how we identify, because we were teaching them at Jack State, we were teaching them how to roll roll postmortem prints. We have what's called a spoon. There's a spoon that you use where you put the card into the spoon. I say spoon. It doesn't look like a spoon that you eat soup with or cereal with, but it's stainless steel. It kind of looks like if you take a metal tube and cut the tube down the long axis, and you slap the finger into the long axis of the tube, there's a place at the end where a fingerprint card goes, and you roll the print on the dead, because the dead can't roll their own print. So, and then they were saying, well, what else do you do? And I was like, well, we would take the fingers, and one of the things you do is you go to the first knuckle, and we have a way that we snip that off, and then we take them and inject them with tissue builder, and that makes the finger. Because in death, what happens is the appendages shrivel up. When you inject with the tissue builder, which funeral homes use as well, it begins to swell. And when it swells, all of that, those details pop up again. You can actually see them. You can literally roll a really good print, off of these. So
that's why with Mr. Jordan's fingertips or what have you, and then his body was cremated.
His body was cremated. Right. Yeah.
But in this case, is that a fairly newer thing that has been chosen?
Well, and I think that some people, they would be willing, and I say people, I'm talking about governments, county governments, they're willing to roll the dice and say, well, we can't afford to bury them, we'll go ahead and do cremation, because cremation is cheaper. You can't argue that from economics.
Yeah.
Dave, what's fascinating about this case is that apparently, despite having been in the ground for over 50 years, they have viable sample. In spite of the fact that this guy is a John Doe, and there is not the same level of, let's just say, memorialization with this guy's body as you would have with a king in England, all right?
You've talked about how tough it is to get a judge to allow you to exhume a body. Is it different when you're dealing with an unidentified remain that, hey, we're doing this because we think we can identify that individual?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I don't think that is as tough a hill to climb in this case, because I think a judge would see this as, well, we know the coroner has got an unidentified body. We want to try to help the family out here if we have modern technology to do this. I don't think it would be as much of an uphill climb as, say, where, you might have somebody that wants to go on a wild goose chase. This is very, very specific, Dave.
Okay. So they're able to get everything on their side to do an actual exhumation.
Yep.
They find that the remains have not totally gone away. And this is a long time, Joe. What would you normally expect to see on a body that was actually casketed and some money spent to do that? Would you see a skeleton, or what would you find?
Skeletal remains. I think at this point, 50 plus years down range, you're going to have skeletal remains. Here's the key, though. They had enough. Let me put it this way, robust bony prominences. Now, normally, and I've got a big reveal coming up about Othram in just a couple of weeks I'm going to let everybody know about. But just so that you understand, normally we would want to have the skull, because there's certain things within the skull that we look for, primarily teeth. Well, you ain't got teeth here, right? So you're going to have these robust bony prominences. Right now, I'm thinking probably the head of the femur, which is, rather large, if you think about where your hip is, in that area, and they would have bored down into that area to try to do an extraction where they could find some viable DNA that they could maybe develop a profile out of, Dave.
Wow. So just to realign things on the timeline. Body is found March 1970. 1973, Darlene Coppage files for divorce in absentia from Clyde Coppage. In 2022, the body is exhumed for DNA profiling, and with the help of the FBI, they got it done. Joe, from the time they exhumed the body in 2022, June of 2022, it took them 4 years till we're talking a month ago. February of this year, they finally identified the human remains that were buried, headless, handless, and X carved into his chest. And we now know that body belonged to Clyde Coppage.
Yep.
35 years old at the time of his death.
Yep.
So he did not flee Darlene. He did not abandon his family willfully and intentionally, although I think she had a pretty good idea something was wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, going back to social history, I really wonder if he would disappear for long periods of time. Looking back, at the histrionics of their relationship, was he, and man, just that commute alone that we talked about, And we're talking about a time, Dave, where we didn't have all of the improved roads that we have now.
Right.
You know, we take it for granted, the roadways that we have now. Dude, back in 1970, it wasn't like that, man. It really wasn't. So you've got that to consider. But I find it very interesting here, Dave. You mentioned that the FBI was involved.
Right.
I really, really, really wonder if there was an extra spark of motivation on the part of the FBI to want to try to get this body identified. They're going to know the way this guy's body found. And what is the FBI traditionally, what have they always been involved in? Organized crime investigation. I really wonder if they had information from back then that they have gone back and they maybe correlated now. They've gone back into, whatever crime family or organized crime group was involved in that particular area. What was it you said early on? The cops had said, oh, well, yeah, this is a dumping area.
Yeah.
So if it's a dumping area, and I really wonder if there's one specific group that was known for dumping bodies there. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And, and again, maybe I'm just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being whimsical about this or whatever, but I look back and the history guy within me, in a crime history in particular, I'm thinking, could this potentially be on the radar itself? But here's the thing. The cool thing about it is, and this is my suspicion, this is not going to be some kind of sample that was sent down to the Woodlands outside of Houston, Texas at Othram Labs. I think they probably sent multiple bones. They may have sent everything they had. And once the body had been exhumed, they packaged this up and they're going to send it down, so that they can do the sampling themselves. I've told you, I've tried to describe, and I've failed at it miserably. I've tried to describe to you what this facility looks like.
Yeah.
It's space age, and I can't wait to take you. I think we ought to actually do live recordings, a couple of live recordings from their site down there for body bags. We'll just fly down there, take our equipment with us, and we'll just tape down there because it is really, truly something fascinating to see. But our friends at Othram, David Middleman and Kristen Middleman and their whole team down there have succeeded in getting this man identified after he endured certainly what seems like horrible trauma. We don't know about the nature of the injuries. If any of these were antemortem, Lord, I hope not. I hope that all of this dismemberment was postmortem. And that's going to be significant moving forward, because I got to tell you, Dave, I think that this is not necessarily the end of an investigation, but it's merely the beginning. Because what have we said in the past on body bags? Every death investigation begins with a solid ID. If not, you're just bumping around in the weeds. But listen, if you have an interest on any level of getting involved with helping folks get ID'd that are out there, our goal, just like David's goal at Othram, is to get that NamUs list whittled down. And if you want to, if you're interested, just go take a look. DNAsolves.com. Take a look. There are cases. It's broken down geographically, and they're not asking for a fortune, just whatever donation you can make. You choose a location. If it's in your region, help them out with that case. Send them a few bucks, man. You never know. They've got to hit a certain level to flip the switch, because this stuff is not done on the cheap, and they are not government funded. So if you want to help out, if you truly want to be a detective on some level, this is how you can get involved. Go in there, and you never have to leave your house. Just send them a couple bucks, and maybe those funds that you send them will help them find answers, and maybe a conclusion, or just like in this case, maybe a beginning. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags.
Kids, pets, life, your sofa sees it all. But with a washable sofa, stains don't stand a chance. All of our sofa collections come with fully machine washable covers and cushions, making cleanup effortless. Liquid and stain-resistant fabrics provide extra protection against everyday messes. Plus, with modular designs, you can rearrange your sofa however you like. Perfect for growing families and changing spaces. Starting at just $699, it's time to upgrade to a stress-free, mess-proof sofa. Visit washablesofas.com today and save. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
With Bali from iShares, you get access to both monthly income and growth potential in one simple ETF. It's the best of both worlds. Discover Bali, iShares Large Cap Premium Income Active ETF. iShares, the market is yours. Visit www.ishares.com to view a prospectus for investment objectives, risks, fees, expenses, and other information that you should read and consider carefully before investing. Risks include principal loss in the use of derivatives, which could increase risks and volatility. Monthly income is not guaranteed. Prepared by BlackRock Investments, LLC.
It's tax season, and by now, we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's an important one you need to hear. $16 billion. That's how much money in refunds the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud. But it's not all grim news. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second and alerts you to threats you could easily miss on your own. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it. Guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/iHeart. Terms apply.
Hear that? That's the sound of your skin silently crying out for hydration. Luckily, Dr. Teal's has just the thing to get you glowing in no time. Meet Dr. Teal's Skin Renewal Deep Hydration, made with a proprietary triple magnesium complex, plus skincare actives for 50% improved skin hydration after just one bath. The words dry and dehydrated are about to be wiped from your vocabulary. Find Dr. Teal's, all dressed in blue, in your local bath aisle. Dr. Teal's. Yep, you needed that.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.